Discover the incredible, life-changing night that exposed hidden truths for an ER nurse forever. Sarah stood in the flickering fluorescent lights of the ER, surrounded by chaos, the sound of desperate voices, the beeping monitors, and the dark, urgent truths that seemed to suffocate the very air she breathed. For nearly 20 years, this place had been her home, her sacred ground. She could still hear her mother's voice. Compassion is the key, Sarah. Always choose kindness. But tonight, compassion felt like an uphill battle. She glanced at her watch. The hours bled into one another, each marked by the weight of student debt wrapped around her like chains. Anxiety clawed at her. Could she really keep doing this? Long shifts, unbearable pressure, and a sense of societal failure that was palpable in her every breath. Yet, she couldn't imagine leaving this family-centered world. But as she worked tirelessly, memories of her upbringing loomed large, harsh realities battling against childhood ideals. A sudden brush broke through the ER doors, shattering her thoughts. Sirens sliced through the night, bringing with them a flood of patients, each arrival a brutal testament to a community in crisis. Gun violence? A tragic accident? Whatever it was, it didn't matter to Sarah. She was already in the thick of it, her heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos. Then, she saw him, Jake. He stumbled, collapsing at her feet. The tattoos that inked his arms told a story of struggle, of choices made in the shadows. She recognized him, not from the streets, but indirectly, whispered rumors saturating her shifts. An ex-criminal, a failure to some, a statistic to others. Her colleagues' opinions hung over him like a storm cloud, their judgments ready to rain down at any moment. In the heart of the chaos, she felt her mother's lessons twist painfully inside her. Shouldn't she save him? Could she push past the biases she thought she had transcended? That familiar judgment echoed within as her colleagues murmured their thoughts in hushed tones, their disdain palpable. But staring down at Jake, she saw more than the ex-con. She saw a child lost in the storm, desperately grasping for redemption with broken hands. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Working frantically, hearts racing together, time drifted away. Moments became entangled flashes of Jake's eyes reflecting pain and dreams of something beyond what life had thrown at him. The pressure of machines echoed like a heartbeat, a reminder of fragility. This was more than just a medical emergency. It was an intersection of life, choices, and judgments. As the clock ticked closer to dawn, Sarah's determination faltered momentarily against the storm of societal expectations. Was compassion enough to bridge this divide? Would the life she fought for pave the way for redemption? Or would the voices of her past seep in, making her question everything she knew about family values, worthiness, and existence? Just as hope flickered in her chest, a rattling sound from outside the ER startled her. A reminder of the world beyond these walls. As Sarah's heart raced, she couldn't shake the unsettling notion that this night may redefine not just Jake's life, but hers too. Would she emerge into the light with a deeper understanding of compassion? Or would the shadows of judgment hold her captive? The darkness tugged at her. Answers were just out of reach. The machines beeped with a relentless urgency, each sound a reminder of time slipping away. Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself as she leaned closer to Jake, who lay unconscious on the cold, sterile bed. The team worked around her, fingers flying over keyboards, medication being prepared, and IVs being set up. As she held out her hand, she felt the warmth of his skin, a fleeting connection amid the chaos. "Come on, Jake, stay with us. she whispered, more to herself than to him. Above the noise, she heard murmurs from her co-workers. Some were concerned, others dismissive. They huddled together, eyes darting toward the patient who, in their minds, didn't he deserve this care? Why are we wasting our time on him? One nurse murmured, the disdain lacing her voice. Sarah clenched her jaw. The judgment stung, pulling her mind into a darkness she fought against. If compassion was her North Star, how could she let their thoughts bend her resolve? The weight of the room pressed on her, but she couldn't let go of the flicker of hope in her heart. She remembered her mother's words. Compassion is the key, Sarah. Those words floated in the air above the chaos, a reminder of who she was, and who she wanted to be. Jake began to stir, eyes fluttering open. His breath came in rapid gasps, and for a moment, Sarah was struck by the vulnerability written on his face. He looked lost and terrified, like a child awakening from a nightmare. "Jake," she spoke softly, trying to meet his gaze. "Can you hear me? You're in the hospital. You're safe." His eyes searched the room, meeting hers, and in that instant, she saw desperation mingled with gratitude. He reached out, trembling fingers brushing against her wrist. She understood in that moment beneath the tattoos and the past choices lay a human yearning for understanding, for life. "Help me, please," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Each word landed heavy, a plea that echoed off the walls. Tears pricked at the corners of Sarah's eyes, a bittersweet mix of sadness and determination. She had saved countless lives, but this one felt different, more personal, a thread connecting their stories in ways nobody else could fathom. She nodded, squeezing his hand gently. "I'm with you. We're going to take care of you." As the team continued their work, Sarah focused entirely on Jake. She pointed out various pieces of equipment, asking him question after question, trying to pull him back into the present. His condition stabilized, heart rate evening out. The battle wasn't over, but for now, they had each other. Outside, the sounds of the city continued, sirens wailing, life moving relentlessly on. Yet, in this moment, encapsulated by bright lights and sterile walls, Sarah felt a shift within her. This wasn't just a job. This was a calling, a chance to transform despair into hope. As dawn's light began to filter through the windows, illuminating the harsh realities of the night, Sarah caught a glimpse of the world outside, a world where compassion seemed to wane beneath the weight of judgment. But tonight, she had chosen to fight against that current. With renewed energy coursing through her, she turned back to Jake. "You're going to have a second chance, you know? It's never too late." In those soft words, she felt her own resolve deepen. But just then, the hospital doors burst open again, a new chaos crashing into the quiet, a familiar face, one that sent a shockwave through her heart. What were they doing here? How would she navigate the new storm about to unfold? Jake's gaze shifted to the entrance, his confusion mirroring Sarah's own. The moment seemed to stretch, and in that stretch, the noise of hurried footsteps and frantic whispers penetrated the air. She recognized the face instantly, her older brother, Adam, steps behind him, eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. "Sarah!" he called out, rushing forward, his face pale. Every instinct screamed for her to move closer to Jake, to anchor herself in the fragile bond they'd built. But Adam's frantic presence pulled her in like a tide. She forced herself to look away, trying to read the unspoken words etched on her brother's expression. "What is going on?" he asked, glancing behind her at Jake. Sarah opened her mouth, but the truth was tangled in her throat. It wasn't just concern for Jake now. It was a flood of family issues they had buried for years. "He needs help, Adam. We're doing everything we can." Before he could reply, the other nurses exchanged looks, discomfort thickening the atmosphere. One rolled her eyes dramatically, as if Sarah's decision was some kind of betrayal. The burden of judgment pressed down even harder. Waste of resources, I tell you, one murmured, and Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. She was fighting for more than Jake. She was battling for her own right to care. Adam stepped closer, the crease between his brows deepening. You shouldn't be alone in this, Sarah. You know how they treat him. You can't forget what he has done. The words hung there, heavy and charged. She felt the spike of hurt pierce her chest. How had they gone from siblings to strangers, constantly measuring each other's worth and motives? With shaky breath, she shot back, and how can I forget that he is still a person? He deserves a chance. Adam's expression faltered. But he hurt you. Jake stirred at the sound of his name, eyes darting between them, the confusion deepening. What is happening? His voice trembled, but it sought connection. Sarah turned back to him, pushing Adam's words aside. You're okay, Jake. We're with you. It was an attempt to cloak the storm brewing around her. But the truth loomed. Could they really salvage this life? Or would Jake's past taint every chance of recovery? The tension shifted as the beeping machines accompanied their silence. Sarah reached out, seeking his hand and squeezing. Jake responded, his grip tightening, not wanting to let go. Outside, the first rays of sunlight illuminated the remnants of a long night, casting shadows that danced around the sterile room. Could this moment act as both beginning and end? Her heart raced, grappling with the magnitude of their situation. Just then, while she tried to fashion words into something meaningful for Jake, a nurse interrupted, urgency now lacing her tone. We need to stabilize him for further tests. Tests? Sarah echoed, turning her attention back to her brother. Whatever happens next, we'll figure it out, Adam said, the resolution in his voice wavering slightly, yet it bore significance. But Jake's fear seeped into the air. I don't want to go anywhere. I need help. And in that moment, the room shrunk around them, filled with a mix of past pain and budding hope. A decision had to be made, one that would ripple through everyone involved. How could she support Jake without sacrificing herself to the weight of judgment? As the nurse prepared Jake for transfer, Sarah faced a fork in the road, heart pounding. This could change everything or destroy what little bond they had left. Would she stand for Jake despite the storm swirling around them? Sarah, Adam's voice broke into her thoughts again. We need to talk. It's about Mom. Just when she thought the night couldn't get any more challenging, secrets began to unfurl, threatening to unravel not just Jake's second chance, but her family ties as well. What truths did Adam carry, and how would they reshape Sarah's fight for compassion? The room felt suffocating as Sarah tried to process Adam's words. About Mom? She echoed, her mind racing. A knot formed in her stomach, a familiar clench of dread. They hadn't spoken about her in years. Mom, who once was the glue holding them together, now felt like a ghost lurking in the shadows, haunting their fractured relationship. Now? Adam pressed, his voice low yet urgent, glancing around as if the walls had ears. We don't have time to waste. You need to know this, especially with Jake here. Don't you think Jake deserves more attention than old family baggage? Sarah snapped, anger mixing with her worry. She looked at Jake, who lay there, his face drawn, eyes wide with confusion. What could they possibly uncover that would help him now? Sarah, please just listen. Adam's voice softened. I'm not trying to upset you. This is about keeping your heart open. Mom, she is not who you think she is. What does that mean? The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Sarah could feel the eyes of the nurses, the weight of judgment in the room stifling her. She turned back to Jake, his expression mirroring her own turmoil, a mix of expectation and fear. Mom, as Adam hesitated, swallowing hard. She is in a worse state than we realized. She, as his voice wavered. She is not handling things well. She could use her kids right now, Sarah. Not just you, but me too. That hit Sarah like a punch. It was impossible to compartmentalize her feelings about their mother. The memories came crashing back, the yelling, the disappointment, the moments when she felt abandoned. "You think I want to get involved with her again?" she snapped. "After everything she put us through?" "I know, but she is our mother, Sarah. If we don't do something now, we might lose her, or lose our chance to make things right." "Make what right?" she shot back, trembling with emotion. "Things have been broken for so long. Can't we just leave it be?" Adam took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You know deep inside you can't walk away. Not now." For a moment, everything around them faded. Time seemed to suspend as Sarah traced her past in her thoughts. The bitter taste of resentment mixed with a flicker of longing for something more, something resembling love. "And what about Jake?" she whispered, turning back to him, watching as he fought against the tide of fear washing over him. "I don't know. But we can't bury our heads in the sand." "Not again," Adam pleaded. Jake cringed slightly, the strain of their voices catching his attention. I'm sorry to interrupt," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper against the sterile sounds around him. "If you need to talk, I can wait. You don't need to worry about me." The sincerity in his words struck Sarah deeply. He was willing to put aside his fears and insecurities for them. "Jake, you're not a burden," she said firmly, squeezing his hand tighter. "You deserve our full attention." But the weight of her brother's revelation loomed large. How could they both keep their focus on Jake and rekindle their family ties? Would they find a way to balance everything, or would the past consume them all? The nurse returned, her clipboards in hand, but Sarah's mind swirled with uncertainty. She could sense a reckoning approaching, a family crisis intertwined with Jake's struggle for redemption. "Okay, Adam," she sighed, the decision pressing heavily on her. "Just tell me what I need to hear. I'm listening." But in that moment, as his lips moved to spill secrets long kept hidden, Sarah's heart raced, not just from the weight of Adam's words. She felt as if another piece of the puzzle was about to click into place. Would the truth only bring more pain, or could it somehow mend the fractures in their family and between her and Jake? As she braced herself, ready to confront a past she had tried to forget, one thought struck her. What if this was an opportunity to rebuild not just Jake's life, but her own? What if the truths waited to be revealed held the key to their salvation? And just as Adam started to speak, the door swings open again, revealing an unexpected figure. Can this visitor carry their fate, or will it drag them deeper into darkness? The door swung open with a creak, revealing a woman clad in a casual outfit, a simple denim jacket, and faded jeans. The surprise that lit her features quickly morphed into a crimson flush as her eyes darted between the siblings. "Emily?" Adam's voice cracked slightly as he stepped forward, disbelief overshadowing the tension in the room. Sarah's heart raced at the name. Emily had been a part of their childhood, a friend more to Adam than to her, but still, memories surged back like a tide threatening to sweep her away. "Hey, I wasn't sure if I'd find you here," Emily stuttered, biting her lip as she avoided eye contact with Sarah. "I heard about Jake. I wanted to see how he is doing." "Just fine," Sarah said wearily, suddenly feeling protective over Jake. Who knew what this person, someone who had once been a part of their family tapestry, might say? "We can talk later," Adam murmured, urgency back in his voice. But Emily didn't move. She stayed put, uncertainty hanging in the air like static. "I know things ended. Weird," she said, looking Adam in the eyes. "But Mom sent me. She wants to talk to you both." The breath caught in Sarah's throat, and she could hear the hum of machines around them, each beep screaming reminders of their current reality. Mom hadn't just asked for them, she had sent someone. Forcing Sarah to confront her emotions head-on, emotions that she wished would stay buried deeper. Why would she do that? Sarah snapped, the edge in her voice betraying her anxiety. After everything? Why should we care what she wants? Because, Sarah? Emily's voice rose, raw and unfiltered. She is scared. She is not the same person anymore. None of us are. A charged silence hung in the air, thick with memories and unvoiced fears. Jake, lying in the hospital bed, looked between them, trying to piece together the tumultuous web that seemed to engulf everyone in the room. Scared? Sarah scoffed, recalling the times their mother had become a specter in their lives, the late-night shouting matches, the unending disappointment. She made us scared every day of our lives. Why should that change? Because some things are worth revisiting, even if they hurt, Sarah. You can't keep running away, Emily implored, her brown eyes shimmering with conviction. We all have our scars, but you can't ignore them forever. Maybe you'll find something deeper in the rubble if you let yourself. Underneath the chatter of machines, an echo formed, resonating with truth, a truth Sarah had tried to bury as much as the past. Was it time to tear down the wall she had built? Would facing Mom again provide a shred of answers? Or would the confrontation rip open wounds, leaving her more lost than she already felt? No one deserves to be alone, Emily continued gently, her words like a lifeline thrown into tumultuous waters. And that includes your mother. We grew up together. She needs all of us now. Jake moved slightly in his bed, the awareness of their conversation hanging in the air. I know it's hard, he whispered to Sarah, his voice cracking. But sometimes, facing the past is the only way to heal the present. All eyes turned towards Adam, as he swallowed hard. Look, I know this isn't easy. I'm scared too. But if you let me, I could help you see what she has become. You don't have to go into this alone. Sarah's heart pounded furiously. The idea of unearthing the family ties once thought severed threatened to overwhelm her. Torn between wanting to flee and the need for connection, she hesitated, mulling over a choice that could change everything. But just before she could respond, a sudden commotion erupted outside the door, sirens wailing closer and closer. The intensity shifted, curiosity morphing to fear. What now? Adam mumbled, the weight of lethargy creeping back into his tone. As they turned towards the door, a new urgency filled the air. What awaited them beyond that door? Would it lead to resolution, or would it swallow them into a fresh swirl of chaos? Under the surface, Sarah's resolve began to harden. This wasn't only about facing their mother, it was about not just accepting, but grappling with the past entirely. It might lead them to uncovering not just their mother's secrets, but patterns they had been clinging to. Hold on, she muttered, determination etching her features as the world outside burst open like a wave crashing ashore. Let us see what happens next. And with that, Sarah took a step forward, leaving the sanctuary of the room, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The noise outside the room intensified, drowning out the sterile sounds of the hospital. Sarah's heart raced as she exchanged glances with Adam and Emily. They had been on the brink of a much deeper conversation, one fraught with family history and unresolved emotions, but now chaos loomed outside. Stay close, Adam urged, lightly gripping Sarah's arm. Emily echoed the sentiment, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. As they stepped out, the fluorescent light seared into Sarah's vision, and she instinctively shielded her eyes. The hallway buzzed with commotion. Nurses rushed past them. A stretcher was hastily wheeled by, and a string of worried faces filled the waiting area. What is going on? Sarah called out to a passing nurse. The woman barely glanced back, her face etched with urgency. Multiple casualties coming in from an accident, she shouted over her shoulder, disappearing deeper into the chaos. Adam took a deep breath, and Sarah could see the tension pulling at his shoulders. Let us find out what we can do. We may not be doctors, but we can help in some way. Without waiting for a response, he led the way down the hall, Emily followed closely behind, her fists clenched, but Sarah lingered for a moment, feeling the weight of uncertainty press down on her. Helping others? Would there even be any space for her in this whirlwind? As they reached the central area near the ER entrance, the atmosphere buzzed with adrenaline and fear. A line of nurses and doctors stood ready, hearts racing as they prepared for the onslaught of patients. Sarah's gaze was drawn to a group of doctors focused near a triage area, their voices brisk and professional as they exchanged information. "Just keep breathing," she whispered to herself. It felt raw out here, and she realized that every soul in the room was grappling with their own trauma, their own stories. "Sarah," Emily shouted, a hint of urgency in her tone. "Look!" Sarah turned to see two men being wheeled in, blood-soaked and unconscious. Panic surged within her. Memories of her childhood flashed before her, a time when chaos felt like home. She couldn't fall apart, not now. "Let us get to work," Adam said, and clasped Emily's hand, leading her to the side of one of the injured men. Sarah followed, her instincts kicking in even amidst her fear. "Hey, we can help with first aid," Adam interjected to a nearby nurse. The nurse's eyes pivoted as she assessed them quickly, searching for signs of competence. Instead, all she found was eagerness and desperate resolve. "All right, steady hands," the nurse said, voice laden with authority. "We need to keep pressure here." And just like that, Sarah found herself in the thick of it, rolling her sleeves up, feeling the cool metal of the medical instruments in her hand. The stark reality of the hospital hit her, a place of life, death, and an insatiable will to survive. As she focused on a task, her mind briefly wandered back to the conversation with Emily, thoughts racing about their mother, and all the unresolved feelings that had been stirred. There was no denying that standing on the brink of chaos felt all too familiar. "Sarah, focus," Emily said, snapping her out of her reverie. "We're needed here." With a nod, Sarah locked her gaze onto the task at hand, adrenaline pumping through her system. A purpose began to form, linking past and present. In this moment of panic, she realized she was running away. She was confronting the very essence of who she was, head-on. And yet, even as she threw herself into this frenetic environment, a question loomed heavy in her heart. Would facing these emergencies lead her closer to unsettling truths she was ready to unearth? "Hold tight," Adam encouraged, glancing at her with fierce determination. With each moment, they clawed their way through the mounting pressure, and Sarah felt a new resolve blossoming within her, one that echoed the whispers of her past. This might just be the turning point they needed. But just as hope began to knit itself through her, the hospital's doors swung open again, the next wave crashing in, and Sarah's heart dropped at the sight of who was brought in next. What would happen next? Would this moment seal their fate, or could it unravel everything she had tried to hide? The chaos escalated as more stretcher bearers rushed through the ER doors. Panic rippled through Sarah, her pulse quickening as she recognized the figure being wheeled in. It was Mike, her childhood friend. His face was a ghostly shade of pale, his body battered and broken, and she couldn't suppress the gasp that escaped her lips. "Stay focused," she told herself, clamping down on her rising fear. Adam instinctively stepped closer to her, sensing her distress. "We've got to help him. He needs us." "Mike," Emily shouted, moving instinctively toward the stretcher. The nurse barked orders, and the gravity of the situation snapped Sarah into sharp focus. She felt a rush of urgency, her hands shaking as she approached, ready to do whatever little she could. "Get in line," another nurse yelled, gesturing toward them. "We need volunteers to triage patients coming in. Let us move." Without thinking, Sarah sprinted to the triage area. The room swirled around her, voices blurring into a medley of commands and cries. She grabbed a clipboard, the flimsy paper crumpling slightly in her hands as she scanned the incoming patients. She was far from ready for this, yet something pushed her forward, something that echoed into the depths of her past, the longing to be needed, to make a difference. "Talk to me. What are your symptoms?" she asked the first patient, a young woman clutching her abdomen. "Can't breathe," the woman gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "All right," Sarah breathed, her voice both calm and steady, surprising even herself. "Let us get you some help. We've got you." She whispered reassurances, her own fears momentarily drowned out by the need for action. She saw Adam and Emily at the corner of her eye, working feverishly on another patient, and her heart swelled with pride. They were a team, forged in the flames of chaos. Yet in the eye of that storm was Mike, lying unconscious. Every time she looked toward the stretcher, a stab of anxiety pierced her. Memories flooded her thoughts, running barefoot in the summer sun, the carefree laughter, the dreams they had shared. Could this really be the end of those dreams? A nurse charged past them, urgency painting her face. "We need someone to take over his airway." "Take what?" Sarah choked out, feeling like she was standing still while everything around her sped up. Would it be Adam or Emily making the call? Did it have to be one of them? Panic twisted her stomach, but through the haze, she found clarity. "Let me," she insisted, stepping forward, her voice firmer than she felt. She had to try. "Do you have experience?" The nurse shot back skeptically. "I used to babysit him." "I can do this," Sarah said, determination pouring out with each word. It might not be much, but it was everything. Then, she locked eyes with Mike, still unconscious, and somehow, in that moment, a piece of her childhood hope returned. As she stepped closer, her hands trembling with resolve, she felt a sudden surge from deep within. This was at the turning point she had sought her whole life. The deluge of emotions washed over her, and for the first time that night, she wasn't just a scared friend. She was capable of making a difference. Just as she reached for the equipment, a commotion erupted. A new patient was hurried in, and something about the commotion sent a ripple of dread throughout the room. As she turned to see who had arrived, her breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. What would this mean for their estranged relationship? And how would Sarah navigate the storm brewing within her, layered with anger, love, and unhealed wounds? Would she be strong enough to face the woman who had once dropped everything in the name of chaos? Sarah's heart raced as she locked eyes with her mother, the woman who had been a ghost in her life, appearing now, amid the chaos. A lifetime of unresolved feelings surged within her, wrestling for control. How could she focus on Mike when she wanted to confront her mother about the years of distance, perhaps more pressing now than life and death? "Mom?" The word flew from her lips, barely above a whisper. The air felt thick, fragmented. Her mother, disheveled and wide-eyed, hardly looked like the person Sarah remembered. Scabs lined her arms, her clothes stained and torn. Yet, there was still a flicker of the vibrant woman who had filled Sarah's childhood with stories and laughter, replaced by this frail figure who carried shadows deeper than any physical injury. "Sarah," her mother spoke softly, her voice shaking as she was escorted closer to the triage. There was panic in her eyes, but beneath it, a plea for forgiveness bubbled up. Sarah felt her walls begin to tremble, the walls she built so firmly around her heart. "Don't. We're busy here." A nurse barked at her mother, snapping Sarah back into focus. But in that moment of distraction, the entirety of the emergency room blurred as memories of her childhood with her mother washed over her. The playful afternoon spent making up stories, the promises of togetherness that evaporated overnight. Was this the reunion she had waited for yet feared? Mike, the thought pushed her back into the present like a cold splash of water. He needed her. "Move!" The same nurse shouted again, pushing Sarah to the side. With a firm squeeze of the clipboard, Sarah turned her focus back to her role, but she could still feel her mother's presence lingering at the edge of her consciousness. Next, she called, forcing her mind to concentrate on the battered young man now in front of her. As she began asking about his injuries, her eyes flicked back to her mother. Conversations from years before filled her mind, fights, pleas, and that last painful farewell. Her heart wrenched as she saw her mother, lost among the haunting figures of the ER. "Sarah?" The nurse's voice cut through her thoughts. "Can you help with these bandages?" "Yeah." Sarah nodded, her voice trembling a little. With mechanical precision, she attended to the young man's lacerations, her hands shaking less now. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she concentrated, desperate for something tangible to anchor her to this shifting reality. Time felt distorted, yet within every heartbeat, she could hear the thrum of unresolved emotions clawing to break free. A few hurried minutes ticked by, then Adam rushed over. "Sarah, how's Mike? Can you find out what is happening?" "I'm trying," she replied, exasperation creeping into her voice. "But my mom is here." The admission slipped out before she fully realized the depth of her own words. Suddenly, Adam's eyes flicked to her mother, assessing the chaos beyond the immediate. "Isn't this a bit personal?" he asked quietly, concern wrinkling his brow. Her options crystallized before her. Was she willing to fracture the thin veneer of their reconciling past? Was she even capable of confronting her mother while caring for Mike? "Stay with Mike," she finally urged, shaking her head at her own indecision while trying to swallow the lump in her throat. "I'll go talk to her." As she took a step toward her mother, Sarah felt a surprising calm wash over her. She was entering unknown territory, yes, but perhaps this was the moment she needed to mend not only her past, but to also learn how to navigate her present. Just as she reached for her mother, that flicker of hope ignited within her. But what new secrets would be unveiled as they faced each other amid the beeping machines and chaos of the ER? Was she ready for the truth that had kept them apart for so long? "Mom." Sarah's breath caught as she approached, the word heavy with years of silence. She studied her mother's face, the lines etched deeper than any age should show. The years hadn't been kind. "Sarah." "I didn't," her mother began, her voice breaking, but the chaos around them swallowed her words. "Where have you been?" The question escaped Sarah before she could filter it, laced with an urgency that echoed her desperation. She was balancing on the edge, torn between old wounds and a present crisis. Her mother flinched as it struck. "I didn't want to hurt you." Each word fell like a brick, adding weight to Sarah's confusion. "You didn't even try to reach out. Do you understand what I went through?" Her mother's eyes brimmed with tears, resentment and sorrow entwined. "I was afraid." "What is there to be afraid of now?" Sarah's voice softened. The nurse rushed past them, the sterile odor of antiseptics hanging in the air. People grimaced, faces strained. An immediate terror loomed real and visceral, and here they were, drawing attention like magnets to metal in the fray. Yet in this moment, it felt like the world had zoomed in on just them. "I lost my way," her mother admitted, her gaze dropping to the floor, ashamed. "For years, I chased something that never existed. But now I need help." "Help?" Sarah echoed, incredulity spilling from her lips. Her heart tightened. "What do you mean you need help?" That flicker of hope she held began to dim as anguish surfaced in her mother's eyes. "I wasn't strong enough. It took losing everything for me to realize." "Everything?" The anger began to bubble again, stifled by the unwanted urge to comfort this woman, this stranger she once knew. She glanced around, feeling exposed with everyone's eyes lingering on their reunion. "You have no idea what I've been through. I just don't understand." "I know," her mother whispered, "and I'm so sorry. What do you want from me?" The question weighed heavily, raw and demanding. Silence hovered, punctuated by the distant beeps of machines that sounded like relentless heartbeats, reminding Sarah how fragile everything was. I want to be back in your life, if you can let me." Her mother reached for Sarah but paused, hands trembling in uncertainty. Behind them, Adam called urgently, "Sarah, Mike needs you." Every word was a knife, each syllable cutting through the fragile moment they were sharing. With a heavy heart, Sarah turned, her mother's presence seeming to slide away like smoke. Just as she started to pull back, the deep currents of nostalgia swept her back. Could she possibly allow this lost chance for reconciliation to slip through her fingers? "Just please don't leave," her mother choked out, desperation threading her plea. "We're in the middle of a crisis," Sarah replied, her voice strained. But in that moment, she felt something shift within herself, a tiny seed of understanding buried deep. "I'll talk to you later," she added, regret twisting in her stomach like a lead weight. This was her chance, and she already felt it slipping away. "Promise?" Her mother's voice was fragile, wavering like a candle's flame in the wind. "Promise," she replied, even as doubts knotted in her heart. She turned on her heel, the world rushing back in like a tidal wave. Rushing to Mike, Sarah forced herself to focus, but the weight of her mother's plea clung to her, transforming into a gnawing anxiety. What if the past held secrets that changed everything she thought she knew about love and forgiveness? In that moment, disquiet coiled inside her like a spring, ready to unfurl. But as she approached the curtained area where Mike lay, fear gripped her heart. Would facing the truth wrench the little stability she had left? What if? And then she caught sight of him, frail yet brave, his eyes inviting her closer. How could she stay strong enough for both of them? Could one night really change everything? Would she find the courage to confront what lay hidden in the dark? Sarah stood at Micah's side, her heart pounding a wild rhythm as she gazed down at her childhood friend. Every injury he bore felt like a direct blow to her own spirit. Memories whirled through her mind, laughter shared, secrets whispered under starlit skies. That carefree boy was now vulnerable, fighting for life on a sterile hospital bed. "Hey, Mike," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "It's Sarah. You're going to be okay. Just hang in there." The beeping monitor synced with her breath, creating a faint rhythm of life that matched her panicking heart. She tried to concentrate on the task at hand, but the sight of Mike's frail body stirred a pit of fear deep in her gut. Time felt suspended, as if the entire world stood still around them. A group of nurses hurried past, urgency in their steps and urgency in the air. "We need to check on his vitals," one shouted, her tone commanding yet calm. Sarah felt her anxiety simmer, realizing that the world could not pause for her grief. "Let us go, we're here to help." Adam's voice pulled her back toward the present. "Focus on what you can do." In that moment, she felt the weight of hope pressing against her fears. She was just a bystander. She was actively participating in a life-and-death fight. Taking a deep breath, she moved toward Mike, adrenaline surging through her veins. His airway was compromised. She called to a nearby nurse, her pulse racing with urgency. "We need to stabilize his breathing." "Good," the nurse nodded, her eyes sharpening with focus. "You take the pulses, and I'll handle his airway." With a nod, Sarah shifted her attention, helping the nurses with every ounce of strength she could muster. Classifications and tasks swirled into the chaos of information rattling her mind. Yet through it all, the flicker of her childhood fires warmed her heart. She and Mike had always faced storms together. Now was just another tempest they had to navigate. While they worked, Adam sidled up beside her, a mix of determination and concern etched into his features. "How are you holding up?" "Just focused on him," she replied, glancing at her brother. "But it's hard not to think about everything else." Like Mom. They both shared a heavy silence, the weight of years pressing down. "We'll deal with her later," Adam said, his voice firm. "Right now, he needs us." With those words echoing in her mind, Sarah turned back to Mike. The machines continued their symphony of beeps, But with every passing second, she felt that strange sense of hope returning. If they could save him, they could still salvage themselves too. Just as Mike began to stir, eyes fluttering open, a panicked scream echoed from the corridors of the ER. "Help! Someone help me!" A new patient was being wheeled in, and at that moment, Sarah's heart sank. "What now?" she murmured, her breath catching in her throat. Without waiting for an answer, she felt a surge of urgency. This was bigger than just her. This was a call not just for compassion, but for redemption. As new patients flooded in, Sarah realized that Mike's fight was just one of many unfolding here. She glanced at Jake being treated in the corner, bandaged and barely conscious. Their eyes met, a flicker of understanding passing between them. They were all searching for some semblance of connection, healing, and forgiveness. With every patient that came through, Sarah felt her own past unraveling alongside the chaos. She was still reeling from the confrontation with her mother, yet this was a pivotal moment of possibility. They could heal not just their own wounds, but be a part of a greater story of resilience within this community. "Let us keep going," Adam shouted, resolute. Encouraged, Sarah tossed aside her fear and stepped into action. The truth of that night washed over her like waves. She could choose hope over despair. Minutes blended into hours, each second moving their team closer to creating a tapestry of survival woven through chaos. In the frantic space of the ER, as lives tangled and untangled, Sarah understood that it was never too late to change the narrative, revealing their truths in the process. As dawn broke, light slicing through the sterile walls, Sarah looked around at the faces surrounding her, tired yet devoted. Turning back to Mike, she whispered, "You're going to make it. We're all going to be okay." Hope took root, a fragile seed yearning to flourish amidst the hardship. This was the moment they would rise together. And with renewed faith lighting their way, she firmly believed that not only could they heal Mike's wounds, but perhaps they could heal one another's hearts too. As the sun's rays seeped into the room, Sarah felt a smile tugging at her lips. It was time to embrace the truth, no matter how painful, and forge the path forward together. Together, they had to move on from the shadows once and for all. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.